life-changing programs and services.
I realized I could be successful in a civilian career.
We stand by warriors and advocate for their needs going forward.
They were by my side in the hospital, and they're still with me today.
Through our programs, community, and advocacy, we're proving
anything is possible.
Learn more at woundedwarriorproject.org/connect.
Hey, Real America's Voice family.
Are you on Getter yet? No?
What are you waiting for?
It's free.
It's uncensored, and it's where all the biggest voices in conservative media are speaking out.
Download the Getter app right now. It's totally free. It's where I put up exclusively all of my content 24 hours a day. You want to know what Steve Bannon's thinking? Go to Getter.
That's right. You can follow all of your favorites. Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec,
and so many more.
And the best part?
You can watch Real America's Voice right there on Getter.
Live.
So join the conversation.
Hop on the Getter chat room.
Engage with patriots who are just like you.
Good morning, Getter friends.
We're breaking news, we're delivering the truth, and we're doing it on Getter
every single day.
So don't wait. Download the Getter app now.
Sign up for free and be part of the movement.
It isn't just an app. It isn't just a social media platform. It's a community. Good evening, America. Happy World War II Victory Day. Yes, 80 years ago today, the brave men and women of our armed forces secured the world. For all of you still with us, we honor you. For all the families of our World War II veterans, we honor you too. You are the legacy of an extraordinary generation of Americans, and we begin today's show with a salute to all of you. All right, it's the Thursday edition of Just the News, No Noise. You know who I am. I'm John Solomon. I'm reporting to you as always from Washington, D.C. and the wiredtofishcoffee.com studios. Wired to Fish Coffee is my favorite coffee. It's the official coffee of Just the News. And if you try it, I bet it'll be your favorite coffee. Go to wired2fishcoffee.com and get a fantastic 10% discount on all of the great blends, as well as the new Just the News mug, the tumbler. I love that. It's one of my favorite blings. Just use the promo code JustNews at checkout, 10% off. All right, folks, President Trump has been talking about a new golden age in America, and we're beginning to get an idea of what that might really look like. We've already got an upcoming American World Cup tournament coming here. We've got an upcoming American-hosted Olympics. This morning, we got America's first ever trade deal with Great Britain in the post-tariff world of Donald Trump, a trade deal that brought immediate buzz on Wall Street. Yes, it was a good day for investors on Wall Street. And then a few hours after the trade deal with Great Britain, what did we get for the first time in history? An American-born Pope. How about that? That's correct. Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, who led the Chicago Archdiocese as well as the vetting agency for Catholic bishops in Rome, was selected by the College of Cardinals to be the next Pope. He'll take the name Pope Leo XIV. When the white smoke came out of the Vatican chimney just 2 days into the deliberations there, I don't think there are many people I knew of who ever thought, even the experts, who thought that an American would walk away up onto the Vatican balcony today as the next Pope, but that's exactly what happened. Now, who is Pope Leo XIV? Well, he's very closely aligned in reputation and in viewpoints with the recently departed Pope Francis. Yes, he's a social justice warrior from the Augustine Rite of priests. Like Francis, he spent time in Latin America, and he has been critical of Trump administration's policies, specifically on immigration. He's even called out J.D. Vance at least one time that I'm aware of. But Pope Leo XIV is likely to be someone who will be fervent on pro-life issues and the pursuit of peace in a turbulent world, and will be charged with making sense of the next 10 years, the next few decades of Catholic doctrine after sort of disruptive times of Pope Francis. We're going to be talking about that to all of our guests throughout the show. Before we get that, a couple other big pieces of news. Just a little while ago, President Trump pushed the limits on his Ukraine-Russia peace negotiations, demanding that both sides agree to a 30-day ceasefire without any conditions, and warning if they don't, sanctions would be on the forefront. My sources tell me Russia has been more unwilling to compromise in recent days. Ukraine has been moving more towards compromise, and what could be ahead if Russia doesn't take President Trump up on this deal? I'm told we could see the seizure of some of the illegal shipments of oil that Russia's been running around the world, a continued downward pressure on oil prices to bankrupt Moscow, and possible sanctions that could cripple the central bank of Russia and make financial transactions around the world much more difficult for Vladimir Putin. We'll talk about that throughout the show as well. But first, a great time to bring in my amazing colleague, Amanda Head, for more headlines. Amanda, big day, white smoke Trade deals.
I know it.
Yeah.
Listen, a sign that President Trump's tariffs are already working because even the Pope is American-made. Isn't that funny?
There you go. How about that?
So yes, as John was alluding to, President Trump announced a landmark trade framework with the United Kingdom earlier today, marking the administration's first major agreement since enacting those tariffs designed to restore fairness to global trade. Speaking from the Oval Office, President Trump praised the deal as a win for American workers and manufacturers, saying, quote, "We're finalizing the details in the coming weeks, but this agreement opens the door for U.S. agriculture, energy, and industry to thrive in one of our oldest allied markets." And this trade deal has been 25 years in the making, and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick praised the president's negotiating skills in saying that he and the trade team took full advantage of his deal-making talents. And in a bit of entertainment news here in D.C., actually, a group of Les Mis tour performers are under fire after threatening to walk off stage rather than performing on it in front of President Donald Trump during his planned visit to the Kennedy Center next month. According to CNN, 10 of the 12 cast members in the touring production signaled their intent to boycott the show, citing political objections to the former and now current president's presence in the audience. Kennedy Center Director Rick Grinnell responded to the news saying, quote, "Any performer who isn't professional enough to perform for patrons of all backgrounds, regardless of political affiliation, won't be welcomed. In fact, we think it would be important to out those vapid and intolerant artists to ensure producers know who they shouldn't hire and that the public knows which shows have political litmus tests to sit in the audience." And the Kennedy Center wants to be a place where people of all political stripes sit next to each other and never ask who someone voted for, but instead enjoy a performance together. And Grinnell then went on to say the Kennedy Center will no longer fund intolerance, cutting response to a group of thespians who sound like they might need a dose of reality and a mirror to gaze upon their own intolerance. The miserables indeed, John.
Indeed. Oh my gosh. I just long for the day when sports will just be about what happens on the field and comedy's about laughing and entertainment's just about entertainment.
Please, let's.
News is about facts. Well, we have news here. That's facts. So, all right. Well, we're lucky to kick off today's show with a man who's on the front lines of what's going on in Congress. Right? A lot of historical things going on day in and day out. Today, Congress actually passed a bill that would name the Gulf of America permanently the Gulf of America. I'm used to calling it the Gulf of America. AP, take note of that, the Associated Press. Joining us from the great state of Texas, Congressman Randy Weber. Congressman, good to have you on the show today.
Thanks, John and Amanda. I'm going to start off with a tongue-in-cheek now. I wasn't in favor of President Trump calling that the Gulf of America. I think he should have called it the Gulf of Texas.
I knew it. It's not.
But of course, we voted.
Change the bill. Amendment. That's so funny.
But no, he's right on track, and I love you guys for y'all getting the word out. You know about the trade deal. I didn't get to read the trade agreement with Britain, but I've been watching texts back and forth with our members. Owners. We got on a plane right after votes, and we headed to Texas, to God's country, and so I didn't get a chance to look through it. But look, this is only just the start of what people are going to start finally to see that President Trump is on the right track and countries are going to come and want to do business with us. We're the biggest market in the world. And so I think people are going to see that happening. And I'm glad for it.
Yeah, free trade that's fair is going to be welcomed, and people are going to know what it feels like for the first time on this side of America. It's going to be great. So I want to ask a little bit, a big moment, the first ever American-born Pope, whether you're Catholic or not. It's just such an extraordinary moment in history. A lot of people thought never would happen. Just your reaction to what you heard today.
Well, we like the fact that he's from the United States. We like the fact that they did it in 2 days. We've got a bunch of Catholic friends. I have a bunch of Catholic friends, and we have Catholics, of course, as you know, in Congress. Sure. And so maybe for once in the last few days, or maybe since President Trump got elected, we can actually agree on something on both sides of the aisle. So I'm glad to hear you say pro-life. I'm glad to hear that he's going to uphold the sanctity of life. Yeah. And so I think he's going to do a good job from what we're hearing about him.
That's great news.
Yeah, and like you said, it's nonpartisan. It is always nice for a country to be able to claim the pontiff. And sir, there's something about this that seems to ring true with me as well. The fact that, we have the Olympics coming here, we have the FIFA World Cup coming here, and now we have the Pope from the United States. It kind of seems undeniable that America is either on a comeback tour or we're already back and we're just dominating even more.
Well, you're right, Amanda. Ronald Reagan had a great phrase. I don't know, you're too young to remember it. Now, John, you're not.
I'm
but
not.
Ronald Reagan
enough to remember.
But Ronald Reagan had a great, after he got elected, it's morning in America again.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're beginning to see. Trade, people coming to America. They're saying, we need to make trade deals with you. You're seeing all these good things that Amanda enumerated. And look, you remember the movie show, and I know you don't, Amanda, the series Happy Days are here again.
Yes, indeed. Happy Days. Fonzie,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Listen, I used to watch Nick at Night. I'm aware of Happy Days.
Oh, please, add up more.
Now, John, you and I both feel old.
We saw the original.
The original airing.
Go easy. Oh, that's so much fun. Sir, there's so much going on in Congress, and I know you're a fervent patriot. You've been trying to cut this deficit for a long time. Getting your colleagues there is going to, I know, be a challenge. Will you get the job done? What will it look like on either Memorial Day or the 4th of July? What will we be celebrating in Congress's work?
Well, that's a great question. We actually went into Energy and Commerce Committee this morning early to have that discussion. We stayed late till 9 o'clock the other night, and late on some of the other days. Our friends across the aisle are going absolutely bonkers, as we call it in Texas. They're wanting to tell the American people that we're going to do away with Medicaid, do away with Medicaid or Medicare, Social Security, and all of those things that just are not true. We talked mainly about Medicaid this morning. And we talked about there's so much fraud on Medicaid. There are people who are actually, believe it or not, registered in more than one state. There are young men, able-bodied young men who could go out and get a job that are on Medicaid. And what we're saying is, look, we've got to cut out all that. We cannot afford to be the charity of the world. And as you know, 36 trillion, 37 trillion, we're on a short timeline here. So we're working on reconciliation very, we're staying up late. We're getting up early. Ways and Means, committee has got a major part in Energy and Commerce. We have $880 billion with the B dollars, but we are absolutely focused on cutting spending so that Americans can rest easy for a little bit. It's been way too long with that amount of deficit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's for sure.
And I know President Trump is obviously very supportive of what you guys are doing with the cutting. I also want to ask you about something. Former President Joe Biden recently was criticizing President Trump's rhetoric, the way that he treated Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. But as a Texan, it seems like President Trump is just kind of a straight shooter, and it's the way that he delivers messages. And it is showing that, at least as far as deporting illegal immigrants, criminal, violent, illegal immigrants, that rhetoric is doing well for him, despite what the former president said.
Well, absolutely. And I would maybe think, do we call that rhetoric, or is he telling it like it is? Because that's what he's doing. Excuse me. But for Joe, now think about this. For Joe Biden to criticize the president, Donald J. Trump, who's secured the border in record time. Remember, this is the same president, when he was vice president under Obama, went over and said to the Ukrainians, you don't get this $1 billion unless you fire the prosecutor that's looking into the company my son works for. And he wants to criticize Donald Trump. Man, you talk about the pot calling the kettle black. It's unbelievable. I think Trump's on top of it. You probably saw his tweet out today about talks with Russia and continuing. I think, John, you alluded to it. He's going to put sanctions on them. They're probably going to be the hardest on Putin. All these things that he is threatening to do. And let me tell you something. When Donald J. Trump threatens, you better believe him, take him at his word, because he loves America. He loves this country, and he's trying to get it back on track, and we stand 110% behind him.
Yeah. Just remarkable. And he is a man of his word. He's going to deliver those sanctions quickly. They're already being drafted up just in case Vladimir Putin is wondering if he's got a game of possum to play. One last quick question for you, sir. We broke a story earlier this week that, and it's as a result of the great work of Tulsi Gabbard, she got this document declassified. In 2021, the Biden National Security Council told the FBI and the Homeland Security Department, you no longer have to have a predicate to open an investigation on America, a predicate meaning a factual basis that a crime likely occurred. You could simply open and target Americans if they engaged in, quote, I'm not making this up, concerning non-criminal behavior. We've lowered the standards for so many of our civil liberty protections. That memo is still in force right now. We're trying to find out from President Trump. I'm sure he'll withdraw it. But do you think as part of what Congress does this year, they begin to dig into deeper these civil liberty issues that Joe Biden created for America?
Boy, I hope so, John. You know, tongue in cheek, mark my words, as bad as it's been getting, next thing you're going to see is some of the Justice Department go and present a fake warrant to a FISA court. Oh yeah. They've already done that, haven't they? Absolutely, they should be doing this. We went into classified briefings. You know, I can't talk about the exact what was in those classified briefings, but I was there when it first came out that FISA warrant was a hoax. I walked out of that SCIF, Security Classification Information Facility, angry. Of course, old Biden was in office. I call him old Biden because I think it's Obama's third term. There wasn't anything we could do about it necessarily. But for them to criticize Trump, and look, Tulsi came in with me in 2012. She's a brilliant lady. She's a veteran. She's a patriot. She loves our country, and she's on the right track. Keep it up, Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you, for all the work you've done standing for liberty in the face of so much resistance. It's such a great honor to have you on. You always make us laugh and smile, but you also give us lots of great information. It's good to have you on.
Well, we appreciate Real America's Voice for getting the word out.
Yeah, we appreciate you as well, sir. Thank you so much. All right, folks, that was a great conversation. What a fun time. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back more about our new Pope, Pope Leo XIV. Lots of new things to learn about him. Our next thing knows him pretty well. Father Frank Pavone, right after these messages. Native Path collagen is made with only type 1 and type 3 collagen fibers. These are the two most important types, as they make up about 90% of the collagen in your body, found in our cartilage, found in our bones, skin, hair, nails, guts, and more. A lot of our other brands use a rainbow of fibers and fillers, but all you really need for maximum benefits are types 1 and 3. Native Path is a single ingredient collagen. No fillers, no additives, no artificial sweeteners, and they're third-party tested for heavy metals. It is also completely flavorless, so you can put it in anything, coffee, smoothies, soup even. Because Native Path's recipe is a peptides formula, it's more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed into the body more easily and mixes much better than other brands. No clumping at all, and best of all, Native Path offers really amazing bundle deals where you can get 3 and 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other collagen brands. Native Path has sold over 5 million jars of collagen, has over 1 million happy customers, and over 8,000 5-star reviews, and a 365-day no-risk guarantee. They even have an 800 number you can call with questions about usage, recipes, ingredients, and you'll speak to a live human. How about that? They want to help you. My favorite is their private FB community, where everyone is sharing success stories, recipes, and just being kind to one another on this journey we call life. Do me a favor, go visit getnativepath.com/justnews. That's getnativepath.com/justnews and start your transformation today. One more time, getnativepath.com/justnews.
As you get older, your liver health becomes an increasingly important part of the aging process. We created Dose for your liver to make taking care of your liver easy. Dose is an organic blend of liver-supporting ingredients and is clinically backed to promote healthy liver function so that nothing's holding you back.
Did you know that criminals can steal your home without you even knowing?
Nobody thinks that I can take their house. Nobody thinks that.
Criminals forge your signature on one document, transfer your title out of your name, take out loans using your equity.
3 months later, you start getting foreclosure notices and you realize you've got 4 mortgages on your house that you didn't even know existed.
Leaving you with a financial and legal nightmare. Find out if you're already a victim at HomeTitleLock.com.
Indoctrination. It's happening to our kids in the media and in schools, and this may be your last chance to save them. Safeguard your kids with Mike Huckabee's free kids guide to fighting indoctrination. To order, visit letkidsthink.com. That's letkidsthink.com.
Don't you hate that dirty old hose? It kinks, splits, and it always leaks. And it's way too heavy to carry around. It's time to get the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead. Just turn on the water and watch it grow to a full-size hose. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the new Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees. Just connect to the spigot and watch it pivot. And when you turn off the water, away it goes, shrinking back to a pocket-size hose. And it makes it easy to carry. and put away. Call or go online now to get the Superlight 25-foot pocket hose Copperhead today for only $29.99. Order right now and get our 10-pattern thumb drive spray nozzle free. Simply use your thumb to turn it on or off. There is a strict limit of 3 per order, so don't wait. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-956-8517 or visit getcopperhead.com. So call 1-800-956-8517 or visit getcopperhead.com. Order now.
Welcome back to Just the News and No Noise, an historic and groundbreaking moment for the Catholic Church. The election of Pope Leo XIV, formerly Robert Francis Prevost, marks the first time in history an American has become Pope, elected after about 24 hours of deliberation by 133 cardinals. His selection was officially announced by Cardinal Protodeacon Dominic Mamberti as white smoke billowed from the Sistine Chapel, signaling a successful conclave, and crowds in St. Peter's Square erupted in cheers at the news. So with us now, a former Catholic priest who was defrocked by the Vatican after criticizing Democrats for being pro-abortion. He is the director of Priests for Life and the national co-chair of Pro-Life Voices for Trump, Frank Pavone. Father Frank, great to see you.
Good to see you, Amanda. Good to see you, John.
Yeah, good to have you.
What a great day. An American Pope we have. Tell us what you know about him. Peel back the curtain.
Oh, my goodness. Well, first of all, what a surprise that they chose an American. I did not expect that. Yes, Cardinal Prevost was well known to us at Priests for Life. Our associate director, Father Dennis Wild, is also an Augustinian. Now, Father Dennis tells us that he was a professor at Villanova for many years, and he knew Robert Prevost when he was a student at Villanova. And one of the things that student Prevost did was to start the pro-life group Villanovans for Life. Wow. And all through his years then, he had a missionary zeal. He wanted to go to the missions. And he did that in Peru. And then he became involved in Catholic leadership in Peru. And he headed up one of the Augustinian seminaries. He was eventually later on appointed an archbishop there and head of the bishops' conference. But two things I want to point out. He was in charge of the Augustinians worldwide for a while as their prior general, as it's called. And that's significant because that position, as well as his later position at the Vatican as heading up the Congregation for Bishops, means that he has had experience in the worldwide governance of the church, both of those positions. Because it's a big transition for a bishop or a cardinal if they're elected pope. Okay, to change the mindset from I'm in charge of this diocese, which in comparison to the whole church is pretty small, versus now I have responsibility for the church worldwide, which is very diverse and very large. And this, I think, is one of the reasons why the cardinals were able to agree on him so quickly, because they all know him. They had to deal with him in his role as head of the Congregation for Bishops. So this is something that, you put all these pieces together, it makes a lot of sense why they chose him and why they chose him so quickly.
Yeah, he definitely has a great resume for this such important job in the world. He enters a church that I would say, is in transition in many ways, and where it is from Pope Francis. Francis raised a lot of issues, but I don't think we've solved a lot of those issues yet. What sort of theological perspective do you think Pope Leo XIV is going to bring to the big issues left unsettled by Pope Francis?
Well, I think we have a clue just in the name that he chose, right? Leo, you go back, the last pope was Leo XIII in the 19th century. And Leo XIII was known for his work with Catholic social teaching, really laying foundations for that Catholic social teaching. His encyclical Rerum Novarum is fundamental to the church's teachings. So I think that the new pope is signaling that he wants to build on that teaching, and he's going to want to engage all of these social issues that the church is rightly concerned about. But I from what I know about him and from what our associate Father Dennis says, theologically, doctrinally, spiritually, he's going to be solid and unafraid to advance the teachings of the church as we have all known those teachings for 2,000 years.
That's great news.
I want to stay on the social issue for a moment. I love that he is what I think will be more pro-life than Francis. But when it comes to the LGBT stuff, I've spoken to a lot of Catholics who were just not a fan of Francis being so, I suppose, milquetoast on those types of things. What do you anticipate we will see from Pope Leo?
I don't think we're going to see what we saw under Pope Francis. He's been very clear about the church's teachings on gender and really the common sense on gender, right? I mean, we don't even need an official church teaching to know a man is a man, a woman is a woman, and you can't become, transfer from one to another. So I think we're going to see an end to that kind of woke signaling that we had under Francis.
Yeah. There's a moment when he is greeting the crowds right after the conclave is wrapped up, and you can see the humility in his eyes. I think his eyes almost well up with tears, but he seems to be a man of great humility, and that compassion is very important. People I've talked to today met him, said he's always worried about compassion for the poor, for those who need help. He seems like he'll be a remarkable ambassador for the church as he goes around a very turbulent world.
Yes, he has, as we said before, a very strong missionary spirit. And yes, humility and as a very magnanimous person are two characteristics that he definitely displays, and those who know him have said the same thing.
That's great. Pretty exciting.
Frank, we were delighted to welcome you here a few weeks ago, and you told us about something that you are working on right now. And just for our audience, it kind of centers around the notion, Frank, you and I share the view that it's better to save some lives than no lives when it comes to abortions and babies. So we got to focus on what a lot of people agree on. We've talked about, John and I have talked about this a lot. You got the 80% who are in the center of the country, and then you got 10 and 10 on the far sides at the extreme spectrum, or extreme ends of the spectrum. So focusing on, at a certain term, at a certain time in the abortion, tell us about what your organization is doing.
Yes, at Priests for Life, we are going to be focusing on bringing renewed attention to the fact that in this country, we are aborting healthy babies of healthy mothers, even in the 6th, the 7th, the 8th months of pregnancy. We've got the evidence, we've got all the proof of that. It is legal in so many places in our nation, and this is a unifying issue. You're not going to get most of any category agreeing with that.
Yeah, so important. Frank, I wonder, an American Pope, what it will be like the first time he comes to America. I assume he makes a trip early to this church because the Americans here, I think maybe a little directionless the last few years, a little uptight and frustrated. Do you think he does that in his first couple of years, returns to America as the Pope?
Oh, yeah. I think so. I think we can expect that pretty soon, and it's going to be really a warm American welcome. And I know President Trump has already signaled, his pride and joy, as of course our American president, and his looking forward to greeting him directly as well.
It'd be an amazing
Even though
moment.
we criticized him, you think it'll still be a warm reception?
Oh, yeah. It will be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will be.
It will be. Oh, man. Father Frank Pavone, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We always love having you on. Tell everybody very quickly where they can find more of your work at Priests for Life.
Yes, join me on social media at FR Frank Pavone, FR Frank Pavone on all the platforms.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Father Frank Pavone, thank you so much for being here. All right, everybody. And on the other side, President Trump struck a bold new trade deal with Great Britain, boosting America's exports while keeping pressure on foreign tariffs. We're going to talk about that with our next guest after this break.
Hey folks, what if I told you your retirement could vanish overnight? Now that's not fear-mongering, it's a warning, because right now our government is over $37 trillion in debt. The dollar is weakening, inflation is eating away your savings, and while most Americans are stuck watching the headlines, the smart money is already moving. Big banks around the world, well, they're dumping dollars and buying gold like never before. They know what's coming, a potential dollar reset that could crush the value of everything you've worked so hard for. That's why American Alternative Assets created a free wealth protection guide to help you protect what you've earned with time-tested precious metals like gold and silver. Go to johnlikesgold.com or call 1-855-GOLD-340. That's 855-GOLD-340 to get your guide right now. That's 855-465-3340 if you don't want to do the spelling. Don't wait for a financial crisis to start protecting your future. Be early, be ready, be protected. Remember, go to johnlikesgold.com or call 855-GOLD-340. That's GOLD 340 to get your free guide right now.
Hi, I'm Cade Courtley, and welcome to the Ford Patriots Buy One, Get One Solar Generator event. Claim the Patriot Power Generator 2500X, and you'll get a free Patriot Power Sidekick with 2 free solar panels. These are 2 of Ford Patriot's newest silent, fume-free solar generators that can power your fridge, TV, and critical devices without ever needing gas. Every American should have the peace of mind that comes from having backup power. Visit FordPatriots.com to secure your free generator and solar panels now.
The last time the world's financial system underwent such a seismic upheaval, the dollar replaced the British pound as the global reserve currency. But today, a coordinated effort to create a new financial order, led by the BRICS group of nations, is accelerating rapidly. And it comes to a head this July at their annual summit in Rio de Janeiro. People have nicknamed the BRICS meeting the Rio Reset, because its goal is to reset the global monetary system. Hi, I'm Dr. Ron Paul. More than ever, I urge you to consider gold before the July summit. Birch Gold Group can help you move your IRA or 401k into a gold IRA. Click below to get a free info kit on gold IRAs. But take action now before July's Rio Reset. Click below to request your free info kit from Birch Gold.
Do you suffer in pain? Are you stiff, tense, or less active? Introducing the EasyWell Remedy Massage System, a triple fusion of therapeutic experiences. Full body vibrational therapy increases blood circulation and reduces inflammation. Infrared heat penetrates deep to reduce pain, soothe, and relax. The Ultra Shiatsu pillow with 6 heated nodes mimics a professional massage. Plus, it's detachable for deep relief anywhere you need it. Experience the true remedy for your pain and stiffness. Call now.
Welcome back, America. Earlier this week, Sunday morning, if you're reading Just the News, you would have saw this amazing story by my colleague right here who said President Trump will be announcing a trade deal this week, and son of a gun, like it always does when Amanda Head reports it. It happened today, a big one. Great Britain, the first major trade deal since the Brexit exit of Great Britain from the European Union, the first big trade deal of the Trump tariff era, and probably the beginning of a long monopoly of new deals coming in for America that will validate the president's approach. We've got the perfect person to help us referee what's happening and what's about to happen. He's the acting director of the Thomas A. Rowe Institute for Economic Policy Studies over at the Heritage Foundation. He's our good friend, Richard Stern. Richard, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
All right, this is a big one. The markets loved it. I think the critics realized they got trumped today, literally. How important is this, and what does it set the stage for in the next few weeks?
Well, this certainly gives more context to the idea of the special relationship we have with Britain. Yeah. Look, we have been trying for 10 years to get a free trade agreement with Britain, and here we are. We now have a framework in place. A lot of the tariffs are coming down on both sides of the pond, as they say. And this is just the beginning of working out and ironing through all of the details. But I think you've hit the nail right on the head. This is the first of probably many deals we're going to get that open our market and their market and get to having a real, truly fair and competitive playing field where everybody plays by the same rules. And that's good for American workers.
Yeah, it sure is.
I want to ask you about these two world leaders coming together, because I think if this was Viktor Orban or Bukele or Javier Milei, people who are kind of Trumpian in their own countries, it would not be a surprise. But let's face it, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, he and President Trump are quite far apart on a number of issues. I know we're still waiting on some of the details to come out, but where do you think they met in the middle?
Well, I'll tell you one of them is that, Keir, I think his government's been a disaster and he's lost popularity overnight. So, I think the interesting thing about this is when socialists get into trouble, they always come over to the free world to bail them out. And I think that's a little bit of what Starmer's doing here. And, because of that problem at home, because he needs to show good positive economic numbers, I'm not surprised that he's one of the first ones to actually cave and work with the president on this one. But, I think it speaks to the power of what Trump's negotiating here, the power of our relationship with Britain, having them left the EU, left the clutches of that tyrannical, super state government. And so I think it shows that even though, look, I wouldn't trust Keir on politics, it shows you that the underlying relationship of our two countries is more important and more powerful than the fact that they went a little nuts with who they've put in charge recently.
Yeah, such a great point. All right, so China's going to take a while to get a deal with, though there's certainly some discussions now going on, but it feels like India is the game changer. I think that might have even been part of Amanda's original story last week. Where do we see India falling in this next line, and how transformative is it if the protectionism India drops for America?
This is absolutely transformative. I think you're absolutely right about that. A lot of people don't know this, but India is actually one of the highest trade barriers of any country on the planet, let alone that, of course, they're the most populous country on the planet. And if you're looking for an Asian counterpart that is likely to supersede China economically, to become a brand new, amazing, great power in its own right, it's India. And as much as India has, of course, a lot of relationships with the West, they've been on both sides of the fence over the last few decades. And so inking a deal with the Indians, having them remove some of the world's highest trade barriers, is an absolutely astonishing feat, and really will allow for much more export markets for U.S. It'll allow us to get rare earths and other things that we don't have to go for China through. This really will help the U.S. tremendously, help American workers and communities, and give us another real great power on the world stage and bring India out of their isolationism.
Yeah, very important.
Any type of trade negotiation with India, though, I think is going to have to include a piece of a conversation, at least about intellectual property and intellectual property theft. If that is the case, and President Trump is as bullish as his messaging is on keeping American intellectual property American, does that also kind of set in stone and give a cue to the Chinese, who are also big IP thieves, that President Trump is not going to allow for that in any trade agreement in the future with them?
Oh, absolutely. The U.S. trade rep here, estimates that Americans lose in income annually $200 to $600 billion a year just through IP theft. And that's thousands of dollars per American household. And while you might sit there and say, well, look, I don't get checks for IP, but the truth is you pay that price. You pay it when you go to the pump. You pay it in Target and other stores you go to. You pay it at grocery stores. It comes out of American wages, workers' wages. So the fact that Trump has put such a focus on this is such a critical component of any good trade deal. And you're absolutely right. India, China, these have been bad abusers. And so if the Indians are willing to work on this with us, if we can hold their feet to the fire, it shows the Chinese that not only are they going to have to do that, but even more worrying for them, China risks being boxed out of the global economy the more countries get in line and follow with us and work with the president.
Yeah, that is, China is probably watching India more than anyone of the other countries we're negotiating with. There was an extraordinary moment in Beijing and China earlier this week. True spontaneous protests at factories and among middle-class workers and working class in China. We very seldom see such display of resistance against the government. What's behind there? It looks like the Chinese economy has a glass jaw right now.
Absolutely. So I've talked about them as being a paper tiger before, and at the end of the day, we think about the U.S. as being weak sometimes for importing so much, but, we use half of our imports to feed our own industry. Now think about China. China's an export-heavy country, which means at the end of the day, they don't produce for themselves, they produce for foreigners. The Chinese economy is incredibly dependent on overseas countries to buy their stuff. So the minute that Trump started to negotiate to use tariffs to leverage on them, it dried up their markets. It cut them off from not just the U.S., but other economies that we're bound with. And so this has created real turmoil in the Chinese manufacturing sector and across related industries. So these are Chinese workers who have had enough of the communist government, of Xi, of his bluster and military exercises, all of the things he's done to get the president here to where we are. And so I think these are Chinese workers that are standing up and saying, enough is enough. We want you to work with Trump. We want you to make China a reputable country and get the economy back online.
Yeah, so important.
Before we let you go, Lord, what is his name? Lord Peter Mandelson, the UK's ambassador to the United States, was talking in the Oval Office and trying to, I think, dispel any type of assumptions that it was the president's trade team that negotiated this. And he made a joke about how he appreciated that President Trump characteristically at the 11th hour hopped on a call to demand more from Keir Starmer. But I'm wondering if you anticipate that President Trump being so deeply involved, because in administrations past, sometimes the president president is as hands-on as President Trump is. Do you anticipate that whether it's an India deal, a China deal, whatever the other deals are going forward, that is going to up the ante when it comes to these countries coming to the table?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the magic about Trump, I call him the negotiator in chief, is he, better than anybody else in the room, knows how to make these deals. So, it's one of those where it's unclear exactly how much the trade team, or really there's a lot of people on the trade team, how much they matter or don't matter. But at the end of the day, Trump is the guy who knows where all the pieces are on the board. He knows what play he's running. So, at the end of the day, I think he's absolutely the person in the room who calls the last shots, who gets the deal together. And I don't think we can overlook that. And so I think that, the ambassador there, as much as he's trying to dig a little bit at the trade team, he's also highlighting the reality of exactly, I think, yes, how hands-on Trump is at those critical junctures in these longer negotiations.
Yeah, that's great. Richard, real quick, about 30 seconds left. Russia, if President Trump goes the sanctions route, they could cripple the central bank. That would be the nuclear option. Do you think President Trump goes there?
Oh, I think he might. Look, I think he means business. He wants peace. He wants the Russians to play ball and the Ukrainians. He's going to make it happen, whatever it takes.
Yeah, I think so, too. Richard Stern, always a great honor to have you on the show. We're always wiser when you leave us. Thanks for joining us today. Great to have you on.
Always a pleasure, and thank you so much.
Yeah, great conversation. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, how are you going to deal with that yo-yo market up and down, up and down? Well, how about hedging your bets with a little bit of gold and silver? We're going to have a great conversation about that next with one of our great partners. But first, a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Life insurance is a wonderful asset, but what happens when you no longer need it, or you can't afford it any longer? Meet Tom and Susan. They chose to sell their $1 million life insurance policy for $200,000 cash. Now they're sailing through retirement. Like David and Eunice, who sold their $300,000 life insurance policy for $30,000 to help make dreams come true. If you own a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, you may be able to sell all or part of it for cash. Get an instant estimate of what your policy may be worth at ovidlife.com or scan the QR code on your screen. There's no cost or obligation to sell, and it won't affect your coverage. You can even choose to sell a portion of your policy while maintaining some coverage with no future premiums. Or call 1-800-485-6200. That's 1-800-485-6200. Or visit ovidlife.com now.
Are high interest rates keeping you from selling your home? We have a way to get you more money for your home while saving thousands in commissions. At Ideal Agent, we'll connect you with a top local agent who will sell your home fast, for top dollar, and all this for as low as a 2% commission.
We paid a 2% commission, which I don't think we would have had with any other agent, and we got top dollar for our house, and we are just so happy about it, and the results were fantastic.
Ideal Agent connected me with the top 1% agent in my market, and I actually got it at a discount, and I saved about $12,500, which is unheard of when you're working with the top producer in any industry.
We've helped tens of thousands of home sellers get 5-star results with top performing experts you can trust. We guarantee it. Ideal Agent is available nationwide, there's no obligation, and best of all, our service is completely free. Call today or visit idealagent.com.
Welcome back to Just the News, No Noise. We've seen a lot of financial ups and downs in the last few weeks, but what you haven't heard much about is U.S. Treasuries and a possible risk emerging with them. Joining us now to explain, the CEO of American Alternative Assets, Shannon Davis. Shannon, thanks so much for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me again.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, good to see you. I'm going to start with what I flicked at before we get into that trade deal from earlier. You know, I always kind of look at treasuries as a barometer of strength of the country and the fiscal policy of that president, because treasuries are backed by the full faith of the U.S. government. I don't know if the faith and credit of the U.S. government at this point carries a ton of water. But when it comes to U.S. Treasury, something that is supposed to be so stable, what's concerning about what's happening?
Well, what's concerning about it is the Asian financial markets hold quite a bit of it. They hold it for a reason. There's something called credit swaps. So they're basically giving us money, credits, that we then turn around and give out to mortgages. And there's returns that they're getting back. But they've been de-dollarizing for a long time, and right now the Asian financial markets are getting ready to sell off $2.5 trillion in treasuries, which we've got a dollar that's already dying, and that's only going to collapse it more when it gets dumped back on us. So the treasury market is very unstable. That's why we're buying it, us as a country, because there's something called a repo market. So we're buying it back, because if that market crashes, we're in big trouble.
Yeah, that's a great point. Shannon, there's another thing I keep hearing a lot about. You touched on it last time we were together. There seems to be an imminent crisis among hedge funds that are over-leveraged and in some trouble. Talk about that, particularly when you also see the pressure on treasuries, how that could create a tumbling crisis.
Yeah, well, the challenge that all the hedge funds are having is, again, there's liquidity issues. There's flight to safety. So money's moving out of the market. That's what you're talking about, right? Yep. It's up, it's down. It's an absolute roller coaster ride. So when monies are moving out of the market, this is depleting the hedge funds, because assets are being sold off, being moved to other assets like gold and silver. And so when they're having huge liquidity issues, huge credit issues, when there's credit swaps going on, like we're talking about in the bond market, it makes it very unstable for them. And they fund a massive amount of our stock market. And so if they fail, which it can't, imagine if our stock market collapsed. I mean, that would be devastating. So that's why they're talking about bailing in our hedge funds.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Shannon, I want to switch over to the foreign policy side of things. That obviously is going to have a major effect on the global economy. President Trump appears to be very, very frustrated with what appears to be a very belligerent Russia in this scenario. If President Trump imposes further sanctions on Russia, what is that going to do to the global economy?
Well, I think the whole global economy is in an upturn now, Russia included. You guys were just speaking on China, Beijing. There's uncertainty everywhere. It's going to be interesting. Trump means business. He definitely knows what he's doing. He's got a plan. He's executing it. He's moving quickly. I think they just don't trade in different ways. If you look at Saudi Arabia and China, I mean, they trade oil with gold now. Russia's got copious amounts of silver. They have a ton of commodities. It's going to be interesting to see how Putin pivots, but it's definitely going to put a kink in their armor, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Downward pressure on the dollar. Obviously, gold prices go up, but the real reason is because the dollar's value just keeps going down. What is that floor look like, and is it the advent of a whole new economic era? Maybe we're moving into, by intention, a different era of economy and economic transactions going forward.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you've talked about it a couple times. We just mentioned it here. I mean, states now are using gold as money. Missouri is the latest state. Utah. I mean, they Arkansas, take vendor payments in gold. You're talking about BRICS nation backing their currency with gold. Everything is turning to having something that is fundamentally sound, like gold, back it. And we're talking about doing the same thing. So the dollar will go away at some point. When is that? It's just like Bretton Woods. It went away. We created fiat currency. Then it was backed by petro. Then it was the petrodollar. Now it's no longer backed by that. And again, it's just fiat currency backed by absolutely nothing. And it's going to go. There's too much of it that has been printed. We've abused it. And at some point, our monetary system will change. And gold has always been fundamentally sound for a very, very long time. And that's why it's been being used like that now.
It is
obviously going to be a big deal if a trade deal is struck with China. We've been talking about these larger nations. India, very, very pivotal with respect to the tariffs and trade agreements. But what about our neighbors to the north, Canada? Because there's a lot of energy exchange between the two countries. How is that going to affect our market?
Yeah, I think this. Not a lot of people understand. They they power quite a bit of New York, Michigan, Indiana, quite a few states. That we have to be careful with as well, because if they shut off power, there's a lot of Americans that will be in the dark. So again, Trump knows what he's doing. I think that's why he paused his tariffs to a certain extent, because you have to be careful with how much pressure you put on something. It's like a bone. If you put too much pressure on it, it breaks. So he's pretty good at what he does. I think we all trust in what he's doing now. But no matter which way you look at it, it's going to continue to put pressure on currencies, whether it's ours or others. And that's really what you should be preparing for, is the stress that's being put on the currency. Trump's going to take care of the business and make sure these deals get done. There's no one better.
Yeah. Before we go, Shannon, I've had more people talk to me in the last few years about wanting to protect their wealth. They're just afraid that everything they work their life for is in danger and risk. You've created a wealth protection guide, and you also describe how precious metals, particularly gold and silver, can be a very important part of doing that. Tell us a little bit about the guide and what people learn when they go get that guide.
Yeah, definitely. It's really a tool to prepare. It gives you the knowledge of what's happening, what is happening with our U.S. dollar, how much purchasing power it's lost. But it also explains to you on how you can buy gold and silver if you're looking to exchange cash for real money, gold and silver. It explains how you can move money from a retirement account and hedge your bets. You mentioned this before the break. Like, that's what a hedge is for. You're hedging all your other positions with something that has the ability to hold its value and grow when things are going down. Dollars going down, gold and silver go up. So it just educates you on the process of how gold and silver work and how it's always worked for the past 6,000 years.
Yeah.
So important.
Absolutely. CEO of American Alternative Assets, Shannon Davis, thanks so much for being with us tonight. And to our viewers, if you want to learn more about American Alternative Assets, go to johnlikesgold.com or call 855-GOLD-340 to get your guide now. That's johnlikesgold.com or 855-465-3340. A few more stories coming up after the break. We'll be right back.
My doctor told me I needed to start prioritizing my liver health.
Dose for Your Liver is a clinically backed supplement that supports healthy liver function.
My stomach feels a lot better.
He has more energy, he sees his grandkids more.
Start your liver health journey today at dosedaily.co.
The FBI calls it house stealing, the latest scam where a cyber thief transfers the title of your home out of your name and steals your hard-earned equity.
It's roughly 60 to 90 days for that person to even figure out that they're the victim of this crime. You start getting foreclosure notices, and you realize you've got 4 mortgages on your house that you didn't even know existed.
Unfortunately, it's on you to protect yourself. You might already be a victim. Check your title status now at HomeTitleLock.com.
There's nothing worse than losing your dog before their time. So why do so many dog foods contain awful things a human would never eat? To save his pets, world-famous veterinarian Dr. Marty knew he had to change what was in their bowl.
That's why I created Dr. Marty Nature's Blend, my breakthrough formula that's changed everything about dog food.
Nature's Blend contains nothing but all-natural ingredients, designed to help dogs with everything from digestive issues to itching and paw licking, even moving around better. And that's because Nature's Blend is freeze-dried. So instead of destroying the nutrients with high heat, we gently preserve them, and you'll see the difference in your dog.
Take it from a veterinarian with over 50 years of experience saving dogs' lives. I have never seen a food make this much impact on a dog's health.
Such a huge difference in her health. More energy, more playful, no more pooping issues.
He's healthier, he looks better.
Dr. Marty has thousands of 5-star reviews. And for a limited time, get up to 54% off Dr. Marty Nature's Blend, plus a free gift with our special TV offer. Call or go to drmartypets.com/TV. That's drmartypets.com/TV.
The bathroom of your dreams is only a phone call away with BCI Bath and Shower. We can make your ordinary bath and shower extraordinary. This is not a cookie cutter design. This is a complete custom build that will fit your every need, and discounts for seniors and military.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's talk a little bit about education, higher education specifically. Some news coming out of Ivy Leagues this week, including 180 on-staff folks at Columbia who had to be let go because of federal funding no longer flowing there. But they got a pretty hefty endowment, so I don't really know what the problem is. They should be able to pay them. To talk about that and much more is former NIH-funded researcher, three-time best-selling author, and CEO of Overqualified.com, Dr. Isaiah Hankel. Dr. Hankel, thanks so much for being here.
Great to be back.
You know, you look at the higher education sphere and people are no longer having to submit standardized test scores. They graduate not really, being proficient in the area in which they are supposed to be proficient. We were talking to Alan Dershowitz about this yesterday. Are we really suppressing any type of incentive to work hard these days?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people are surprised to hear this. Some of the least intelligent people who are being educated today are being educated at Ivy Leagues and so-called top colleges. They're not incentivizing in-demand skills. They're not even incentivizing logic or reason. They're incentivizing virtue signaling, some hazy definition of inclusiveness, and really just taking offense, protesting. They can't even disown their own students that are violent and that cause violence against other students in front of Congress. So yeah, I think they're rapidly deteriorating their brand. They have been for many decades. But I think the next few years will be the final nail in the coffin. That with a combination of AI and just lots of other options, it's going to lead to a lot more universities running out of funding altogether. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Extinction by their own choice, apparently. It's really remarkable. Coupled with this, I hear more and more people talk about the possibility that we may have a renaissance in the trade schools and in profession-specific training, and less on some of these highfalutin degrees or academic degrees. Is that movement really underway, or is that still just aspirational?
It really is underway. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal talking about how high school sophomores are getting $70,000 offers to be able to do wood shop, but for a living. And if you look at what AI can take over, it can't take over putting in an HVAC system, can't take over wood shop, can't take over being an electrician, painting. So we're going to have to rethink what is valuable and what in-demand skills are. What's not been talked about enough is how these higher education institutions, every one of their students is using ChatGPT and AI to do all of their homework, all of their projects, every single one of them. It's not even a secret, all the way down to high school, middle school, and beyond. This is a big problem. And then when they're finally tested in person, like through an oral examination, or they're being watched so they can't use AI, they all suffer. Their grades go way down. There's study after study on this, and it's not even being talked about. So I think people are going to be turning to the trades, and they're going to be putting people in these roles, and people are going to have to adapt. What that looks like at the end of the day, I don't know. But I can tell you right now, higher education is not doing itself any favors by rewarding students who, again, are violent protesters. More and more of these universities are full of foreign students who don't even like America. And American students, American-born, they've been increasingly replaced at these universities. No matter how good of grades they get, how high they measure in terms of merit, they're not being let in to these institutions at nearly the same rate. So that's pressure for them to also look at different avenues. They're going to these more local entrepreneurial schools. They are going to trade schools. And why wouldn't you? I mean, if you could make $250,000 a year, right, running a trade business versus going to a university where you get a degree in gender studies and have to work at Starbucks, right, or as a barista, what's the obvious choice?
Yeah. And a $150,000 loan to deal with afterwards, too.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask. For employers out there, you're a job creator. You bring in an employee who doesn't know how to do what their degree is supposed to say they can do. And, how do you handle it? That is even more downward pressure on the system.
You fire them.
Exactly right. You don't hire them in the first place because there's no value there anymore.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, Dr. Isaiah.
Absolutely. Well, I am personally in favor of the trades coming back because it's actually a bucket list item for me to be a master welder. So if anyone knows of a master welder in the DMV area, I'm your Huckleberry. Dr. Hankel, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Yeah, tell everybody where they can find out more about you and about your company.
Overqualified.com. We help people that have been left behind in terms of their careers get hired again, remove that overqualified label, and get into a job where you can use your expertise, be valued, and contribute to society, and use those in-demand skills that you did get.
Yeah, I love that. Very, very essential right
Man,
now.
two of our friends, David Sullivan, Janine Pirro, both named U.S. attorneys.
Oh, it's official. All right, that's fantastic. All right.
Breaking news off of Justin.
Dr. Henkel, thanks for being with us tonight, and thanks to all of you for being with us as well. We'll be back here at 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow.